Search of Greatness, exploring careers one interview at a time. In Search of Greatness is a collaboration between Mashpee Public Schools, MashpeeTV, and the Mashpee Chamber of Commerce. This is your guide to finding your best career fit for the future. Hi everyone, my name is Consuelo Carroll. I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Mashpee Public Schools, and today I'm here with Gary Wakstein. He is the author of A New Day for Cray, a children's book author, and we're going to be exploring his career journey. I wanted to talk to you about your career. Currently, you're a children's book author. How did you end up becoming a children's book author?
Well, the reason that I got into children's book authoring is my son, when my grandson was born about 4 years ago, actually it'll be in a couple days, he'll be 4,
Nice.
he said to me, "Dad, you're a rapping, rhyming storyteller. You should write children's books so you can share them with the world." So I had been writing and rapping and rhyming pretty much since I was 6 years old, and I wrote my first children's book, our first book, on my mother's typewriter. She was an English professor.
Okay.
And I don't still have it, but I know I was interested in writing ever since I was little.
So your son was your real inspiration, or was it your grandson?
I would say it was my son who gave me the idea, and my grandson was the one that motivated, the motivation to be able to have a book that I had created that I could read to him, so I'd say it was both.
Where did you start your career journey? Because I know you were in a different field.
Well, I've actually been in the restaurant and hospitality industry for my whole career.
Okay.
Since I was 13 years old, I started as a lobster stuffer and dishwasher at a restaurant and worked my way up to, I've been a general manager, executive chef, I've had a catering company.
Okay, you gotta slow down a little bit. You've given me a ton of options. So your first job was stuffing lobsters, right?
My first job was stuffing lobsters. My second job was at Ken's Steakhouse, the famous Ken's Steakhouse where the salad dressing is from. They don't still own it, but the restaurant is still there, and I was a pot washer, and I'll tell you, the pots piled high, and it was not an easy job for a 14-year-old, but I did it, and I enjoyed the money, obviously, when you're that young, but it's how I started.
Okay, when you graduated from college, what made you stay in that lane?
Well, what made me stay in that lane was a certain amount of things. One was that I really enjoyed it. The rest, cooking and dealing with people, and I was, I kind of enjoyed not being the 9 to 5, everything.
You weren't stuck behind a desk.
I wasn't stuck behind a desk, right? But when you're young, you don't necessarily know exactly what your life's going to be like later. So but I always knew that in the restaurant business, you can always find a job. People always need to eat and are going to be going out to eat, and so it was something that I figured it was a way for me to explore my love for that. I didn't graduate from college. I went to Boston College for a couple of years. My dad passed away. He was a history professor at Boston College, and
So a lot of education in your background.
yeah, I grew up in academia. So we had summers off. So we did travel when I was younger. Even though we didn't have a lot of money, we went to Europe, and we had the book Europe on $75 a day, and so I got a lot of oversight of what was going on in the world and different things that I could potentially do, and I just always seemed to go back into the restaurant business. I think I pretty much was working in restaurants the whole time I was in high school, and up until a year ago.
I know there's a lot of energy that comes from being in the restaurant business, but it's also known for a really tough business. Sometimes entry-level pays aren't all that great. What kept you in that industry? What kept you going even though things were tough?
I was fortunate enough to be in good places, working the places that I enjoyed, met some really great people. After my father passed away, I got with TGI Fridays, and I opened them across the country as a back-of-the-house team leader. So I had a pretty big job, and it was fun to go to different cities. I did one in Las Vegas and Las Vegas, Dallas, Tampa, Palm Desert. Tucson, Arizona, a lot of fun places for somebody from Framingham, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So then I came back to Boston, started with a company called Serendipity 3 out of New York, And I was general manager there for 10 years in Faneuil Hall. Met my wife there, we got married, we had our kids, and it was what I decided to do, and I kept doing it.
At that point, you switched from managing people to head chef.
That was about 6 years ago. I was fortunate enough to be asked to go out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and be the executive chef at the Snake River Lodge. I went there for 3 months and staying for 2 years. And I love skiing, so it was right at the ski mountain, and it was next to my favorite place on the planet, Grand Teton National Park. So, it gave me the opportunity, I feel, the restaurant business to do some traveling and to, meet new people and to see different places. So it gave me a lot of options.
Let's go back to where you were an executive chef. First you were in the back of the house, or actually in the front of the house managing, and then you became a chef. That's not a normal leap for most people, so how did that happen?
Well, I was always in the kitchen in high school and throughout my TGI Fridays career. As I said, I was the back of the house team leader. I learned all the stations. I was proficient at saute and grill and broiler and fry and prep, but I also had I was good with numbers, so I was good with inventory, I was good with food costs, things like that. And when I was asked to come to Serendipity as the assistant general manager when I was at Fridays, they had asked me to come to Serendipity in Boston, which is where I was from, and I was excited to do it. So I stayed in the front of the house pretty much my career until about 5-6 years ago. But I never lost my skills, and I think the best general managers in restaurants come out of the kitchen, because most restaurants are 60 to 80% food, and you really need to know the food, so that if you're going to manage the whole property, you need to understand what the chef's up to.
Do you think in the restaurant business it's better to work your way up or come in more at a management level?
I actually think it's very important. It's hard to, tell people or to show people what to do if you don't really know what to do. I mean, depending upon if you're a general manager and you have very good assistants and very good kitchen folks, it's probably okay. But the problem that you have is you're only somebody cutting their finger away from having to jump back there and do it yourself. So it's really good to know, all aspects, and the kitchen is the most important.
Were you ever asked to run into the back and cook something because you were short-staffed?
Oh, quite a few times. And I enjoyed it. I mean, when I went back in the kitchen, it was what I loved to do. And later in my career, I realized that I enjoyed that even more, because I could control what I was doing, as opposed to if you're in the front of the house, a lot of things are out of your control, and you're having to make excuses for other people. So I just found that it was more enjoyable to not have to deal with the public as much, and deal with the employees in the back of the house and things.
If a young person were interested in getting into the restaurant business, do you have some advice for them? Are there things they should be looking for? Are there things to avoid?
Well, I think you want to get in a place that's successful. It's always more fun to be around people that are happy, and in the restaurant business can be stressful anytime, but it's obviously even more stressful when things aren't going well financially. So you want to make sure that the restaurant's in good shape financially. I think a concept that you enjoy is important. The difference between working at a chain or an independent, a lot of differences there. When you're working with an independent restaurant group, you have a little bit more freedom to do things that you enjoy, as opposed to the things that they're telling you that you need to do. But chains, when I was with TGI Fridays, I mean, back in the early 80s, they were the original Tiffany Lamp Fern Bar, they called it, with the huge menu, and we made everything from scratch until they went public, and then obviously they decided they needed to make things so they could more standardized. But when I opened, I think one of the stores that was like number 100, 110, that kind of thing. So you could go to any Fridays in the country and pretty much work at any one of them, because they were all standardized with, even where everything was. Because if they built them from the ground up, they built them all the same. So you could walk in and know exactly, you go in a refrigerator and everything would be exactly the way it was if you were in Tucson, Arizona or Boston, Massachusetts. So that was, you know, the thing with chain restaurants, you learn a lot of regimentation, and you know, you learn a lot of things that have been proven to work, and then you can take them and spin them your way if you're in an independent situation. So I think, you know, it's two different kinds of learning. It's two different kinds of environments, and they're not for everybody.
Being a children's book author is obviously a very different career. Were there some things that skills that you could carry over from your previous jobs?
Well, my passion, well, when I went to college, I went to school for business and marketing.
Okay.
I've always been interested in marketing. Even when I was in the restaurant business, I used to run a restaurant called Vinny Testa's. And I was the marketing director for a couple years, as well as the general manager. And I think, you know, one of the things that I realized about my journey as an author is that it's really not so, it's, you know, you can write a book. Mine's a rhyming book, and I kind of enjoy rhyming. It's something that I've always enjoyed. I've been writing rhymes since I was young, and I've written them for birthdays, anniversaries, family events, lighting ceremonies, all sorts of things, testimonials. But what happens with, after you've written the book, you need to find an illustrator, and I'm not an artist, so I found one. I was fortunate, after interviewing quite a few people all over the world, actually, I found somebody that was right in my backyard, and she's turned out to be fabulous. But the biggest challenge with being an author is the marketing piece. You know, you just don't write a book and start selling it because you wrote a book. You need to understand how, you know, the industry works. You need to understand the things about marketing, how to get the word out there. And so I find that my background in marketing has helped me, and not all authors are fortunate enough to have that.
And how have you been learning about the industry?
Oh, I spent a lot of time on YouTube videos and blogs and listening to podcasts from different authors. Joined some author groups on Facebook and have been interacting with those folks, and it's been really enlightening to see different people's journeys and different people's styles and what works, you know, what people are interested in as far as consumers. Because ultimately, you know, I write because I want to get the book out there, and hopefully, you know, kids and families can enjoy it. But if you don't know how to market your book, a lot of times it just sits around in your house.
And what advice would you give somebody graduating from high school?
Well, I think the most important thing is you need to do well in school, because if you do well in school, then you have better choices that you can make that are your choices, as opposed to what somebody else tells you you should be doing. I just think that it's good to try different things. I think, you know, taking part-time jobs, maybe an internship with something you think you might be interested in. I think, you know, it's better to learn something and find out that you don't enjoy it than to get stuck in it, you know, because you have to. So, you know, I think it's good for people to try different things. If you're interested in writing or interested in, I mean, pretty much whatever your passion is, maybe go towards that.
Thank you, Gary Wakstein, for being with us today. He's a children's book author for A New Day for Cray, and he just came out with Make Way for Cray. He's recounting his journey, and he started with stuffing lobsters.